Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 103 of A Year of Change. Today we are going to talk about a study that came out a couple days ago, and the numbers in it are a little bit disturbing. We've all known for a while that we're pretty much in the majority. We hear it all the time that more than half the people, or 2/3, or whatever the number is, of people are overweight or obese or just fat in general, and that goes for pretty much everywhere in North America, as well as Europe. Actually, is starting up now. And we've heard a lot of numbers saying, well, 2/3 of kids and half of adults, or 70% of adults, or whatever it is. But there were some in this study. There were actually some fairly hard numbers that they looked at. So this was published in the Journal for the American Medical Association. So it's an actual medical journal. It's not something that's been thrown up on a health website or Dr. Oz or any of that stuff. We'll get off on Dr. Oz again. But what they did, they took basically just sort of a survey of people from 2007 to 2012. This was sort of focused on the U.S., they left us out of it, and they left Mexico out of it. So it's just basically Americans. And what they found is that during that 5-year period, now keep in mind that, so there's still basically a 3-year margin of error there from 2012 to 2015. And the people that they tallied in 2007, probably the majority of them are going to stay where they are until 2012. Some are going to lose weight, some are going to gain weight. But overall, the numbers are probably going to stay the same. So what they found is that right now there's about 65 million Americans that are overweight. However, on top of that, there's an additional 67 million that are classified as obese. So what that means is that we are now in the majority. Not just being overweight, but those of us that are classified as obese. I just bit myself. Ow. That we are now the majority when you encompass everyone that's overweight. So now these are broken down further. It just goes sort of normal weight. I don't know why I said average. Healthy weight, normal weight, that sort of classification. There's underweight and everything else, but we won't talk about that yet. And then it just goes overweight, and then obese, and then severe obesity, morbid obesity, and super obesity. So morbidly obese, I guess, and super obese are the classifications. And then anything beyond that, they're just like, fuck it, super obese, just everything. So this is mainly based off of your body mass index. Some of you may know what this is. Your BMI, basically, is, you hear it all the time. The numbers are a bit weird with this. BMI is very basic. It doesn't take into account anything. It's a lot like your IQ. Like, your IQ is your mental age over your chronological age. So if you're 10 years old, but you are doing things that a college graduate would do, then your IQ would normally be like 25 over 10, so 250. So that's when you have those genius level people. That's why the majority, the average IQ is 100 across the board. Doesn't matter really how smart you are or anything else. So BMI is sort of calculated the same way. It mainly takes your height and your weight, and that's it. Doesn't take anything else into account. Doesn't take into account bone density or muscle mass or fat content, nothing. So if you are, say, 6 feet tall and 250 pounds, it doesn't matter if that is all fat or if you're a bodybuilder, your BMI is going to be exactly the same. So it's not very accurate. It will give you a rough idea, but for the purposes of this discussion, we can probably use it. Because, let's face it, if you're watching this, you're probably not a bodybuilder. And if you are, then bravo, I guess. I don't know why you're watching this. But, so that's what we're going to use for the BMI, and that's what it's based off of. It goes, there's certain scales, like every 5 points, whatever it is, and then it sort of stops at about 45. So I think it goes... So it'd be 45, 40, 35, 30. So yes, normal weight I think is somewhere around 25 to 30. From once you hit 30, you're then classified as obese. I'm doing this backwards. Hold on, I'm going to do some quick math in my head. Okay, yes, fine. So From up until 30, that would be considered overweight. Like 25 to 30 or 20 to 30, whatever it is. Once you hit 30, when you go from 30 to 35, then you're classified as obese. From 35 to 40, that's when you are severely obese. From 40 to 45, you are morbidly obese, and 45 and above is considered super obese. So, there we go. Okay, I've done the math, everything's good. I know where I am. Now, in the interest of sharing, just to sort of give you a rough idea, the other people that we're sort of joining up with and other YouTubers and stuff, they've had a very open week. I really haven't. Like I did a thing on grapefruit yesterday, but they have done things like there's Amy tried to get into Indie PopCon to see someone that she finds is her main source of inspiration. Unfortunately, didn't get through there, so that was a disappointment. She was able to talk about that. Nina was talking about poo throughout the entire thing. Not poo, but poop. Which was actually informative. We've all been there. And, there's people have really sort of opened up. And this week has been, when I'm going through the different videos and things like that, it's very personal. So, in the interest of that, because I've done nothing regarding that, in the interest of sharing, I went up and I calculated my body mass index. And I will share that with you now. So, when I first started this program, at my heaviest, but I was sort of in the same ballpark as when I officially started. So I'm going to go from the official start point. When I started this 103 days ago, I was classified as super obese. That's how high my body mass index was. It's huge. It was very, very big. So I punched in my height and my weight then, figured everything out, and then I did it with my height and my weight now. Didn't think it was going to actually change all that much, but as it turns out, it has dropped me into a lower bracket. So as of right now, and I don't know why this sounds so much worse to me, but right now, I am classified as morbidly obese, which sounds so much fucking worse than super obese. Super, at least you think you might have some sort of powers, but you just don't. So morbidly just sounds like I'm probably going to die soon. So, but it sort of does show a bit of progress that I'm down into a lower bracket or whatever you call it. I still have a very, very long way to go. I'm just barely into the cusp of that one. So, a lot of you are going to be in that same sort of zone of obesity. And then when I drop down again, if I drop down, then it will be severe and then just regular obese and then overweight and then hopefully normal and healthy. So when I first started this, I was in the same classification as the people that we've seen in some of the documentaries that are up on the channel as well, where you're bedridden or you have just a myriad of medical problems that you have to deal with as well. So I was in that classification. And granted, again, BMI thing is not all that accurate, but my number was high enough that I know it's not a matter of going, well, there's muscle mass and I have this and that, and I'm wearing clothes, obviously, so that's going to add to it. And so I'm just sort of basing this on, no, this is an accurate number, and I'll just use that as a guide. So when I first started out, I went from, well, in the past 3 months, roughly, I've gone from super obese to just morbidly obese. Sounds so much worse. But I'm still in that same bracket. And basically anyone that is above the overweight, so above 35 for your body mass index. And anyway, what they found out is that out of the 130-some million people that are there are more obese people than fat people. Or than overweight, I should say. Because we're sort of all-encompassing fat, everything. So, now again, these are numbers that went from 2007 to 2012. So that number might have actually increased since then. We've got 3 more years of unhealthy eating and not doing exercise and everything else behind us. And for some people that were, when they were surveyed back in 2007, they've got an additional 8 years of eating to sort of catch up to. So those numbers, these are the numbers that are in that date range from 2007 to 2012. So just in that 5-year window, this is what they found. And assuming that everyone has stayed the exact same weight, And we all know that, I mean, the vast majority of us are going to be gaining. I mean, like I say, there are going to be some that are probably losing weight, but there are going to be many, many more that are gaining. So the numbers are probably actually quite high, or higher, I should say. But when you look at those numbers, I mean, that tells us that something is wrong. And it's not just a matter of, I mean, it can't be genetics. When there are that many people that are obese, it's not a genetic thing. It's a habit thing. And we know that. We know it's the type of food that we eat. It's the lack of exercise. It's the amount of food, for some of us, myself included, which have had a bad few days. Wednesday and Tuesday, I pretty much I didn't really eat well at all. I had one good meal, and then the rest was just snacks. I still stayed under, but... And I know that I said that yesterday, not in the video, but either on Twitter or FitnessPal or one of the two. So, getting back on track, though, things will be fine. I'm going to start eating properly, because I'm going to be shifting my schedule again to a day shift, and I don't want to go through that bad week again. So, need to keep that. Anyway, so I'm getting off topic. I should save that for the weekend. So, forget you saw that. Forget you said that. Shut up. Forget that you said anything. And we'll start again on Saturday, and we'll figure that out. So, when you look at these numbers, though, sort of getting back on topic, I apologize. It has to be a behavior thing. We've seen it with, when immigrants come in and they start adopting our eating style, they get obese. It's the same thing. It's not as if their genetics change once they get here. And the same goes the other way. There are people that are emigrating, I should say, out of the country. And, when you get to a location where your eating habits have changed and you're exercising more, then yes, you're going to lose weight that way as well. A lot of it is environmental. And for us, we're just, I don't want to say lazy, but we don't have to do anything. There's nothing that we really need to do. We aren't chasing our food down. We aren't farming a lot. I mean, we drive to a location where they give us food. Very high fat, high sugar, high salt, very calorie dense food, very low nutritional value, and it's extremely cheap. So we go to a location, they give us this food, we eat it, and then we do nothing to burn it off. That's what's causing all of this. And I know that there are a number of you out there that are saying, no, you have to take this into account and this and this and this. Just like the body mass index, this is very overly simplified. But we've said it right from day one. It's simply a numbers game. Calories in versus calories out. If I'm eating 2,000 calories a day and I'm expending 1,000 a day, then I'm going to gain weight. It's just very simple math. And, I mean, you can say, well, no, you've got to do, there's metabolism. Yes, there are going to be some instances where it's, a genetic thing or glandular or something. There are not 130 million people in the U.S. that have genetics that predispose them to obesity. It just simply won't happen. Because genetics takes a very long time to sort of adapt and change and things like that. And it's really only the past 2, maybe 3 generations that have really started packing on the pounds the way that we have. And I'm including myself in there. I'm not picking on Americans. Don't worry. Don't worry, I'm up in Canada, but we are just as fat as you are, so we're okay. I don't know what our numbers are. I suspect the ratio is probably the same. Again, we aren't hunting up here. We go to a store, they give us food, we eat it, and then we sit and we do nothing. So, it's pretty much just that sort of North American thing. We saw in one of the documentaries a couple of weeks ago that Mexico is running into the same thing, that right across North America, from top to bottom, we're all just gaining and gaining and gaining and gaining. So, this is sort of, I don't really have any benefit to this. Normally with a study, I'll say, and here's the light at the end of the tunnel with this. There really isn't on this. It's just sort of a bit of an eye-opener to look at these numbers. And not just that, because you can look at it and say, oh, there's 130 million overweight people. It's like, yeah, everyone kind of knows that. But when you look at the fact that there are more obese people than there are fat people or overweight people in those two classifications, that should say something. And there are many, many more people that are just fat in general than there are people that are a normal, healthy weight. So that should say something. And I don't know if anything's going to come of this. I mean, it's not like it's something that's being publicized. I mean, we've seen it for years and years and years and years. When they say, oh, well, 2/3 of the country is fat. No one gives a shit. We just keep eating all the horrible foods that we're eating and not doing any exercise and things like that. It's costing our healthcare system, millions and millions and millions of dollars a year. I don't know if it's ever going to change. I don't know if anyone's, one-on-one, like personally, people are going to change, but overall, I don't know what can be done, whether it's on a government level or a healthcare system level, which is sort of the government anyway. Sorry, that was really stupid. But I don't know what people could do to get to a point where they say enough is enough. We obviously need to make a change. And I don't think it's ever going to happen. It's a cultural thing. We are lazy. We like to eat. Everything tastes good because it's filled with fat and sugar, and we're genetically disposed to liking that. Not just us. I mean, humans in general. We have that little pleasure center in our brain that goes off every time that we eat something and go, ooh, it's so delicious. So, I mean, it's sort of hardwired into us from, on an evolutionary scale. That didn't make really a lot of... that didn't make a lot of sense. I should have said evolutionary... No, what's the word I'm looking for? From an evolution standpoint. There we go. I can't figure out what the evolutionary standpoint might sound better. But anyway, from that point of view, we're hardwired to enjoy high energy, calorie dense, high fat foods. Because we're just so used to having to go out and hunt for our food or work for our foods. Even, 2-3 generations ago, when people would work for their food a lot more than we do now. We were a lot more active than we were now. Even going back, if you think, even to your parents, and say, okay, well, or your grandparents, depending on how old you are, and saying to them, what would you do for just during the run of a day? Very rarely would they say, well, I sat and watched 12 hours of TV. And then I sat on my computer and I did this and I did that. That's all that we do. Our hobbies no longer involve things like going out and spending time with friends or exercising by playing or any of those simple little things. We talked about this earlier on this week as well on Monday, that we don't walk to school like we used to. Partially because it's too dangerous. That's just, you're asking for trouble. Don't let your kids walk to school. There's too many creepy people out there. But we don't do any activity in our leisure time. We watch television, or we play on our phones, or we play video games, or you play on the computer. Whatever it is that you do, a lot of it is it's not a physical activity. So even if we were maintaining it, even if we were eating the same number of calories that we've always eaten, which we aren't, we're eating a lot more. But even if I'm sorry, my chair is squeaky. But even if we were eating the same amount of calories that our parents and our grandparents ate, the activity level is so low now that we'd still be gaining. I don't think it would be as bad as it is now, but we'd still be overweight. It would be pretty bad. So I don't know. Obviously, smarter people than I have tried to figure this out, but I don't know if there's anything that's ever going to happen where people finally say, no, we need to stop something. Unless it gets to a point where they say, well, we're banning salt and sugar. And they've already banned trans fats. You've got 3 years left. Then you're done. No more trans fats. So if it's going to be a matter of them saying, okay, well, you know what? No product can have any more than this percentage of sugar in it. Or salt. I know I keep picking on salt because I'm still dreading that. I know I need to make a change there. But if they limit that and say, you can't have this much salt in your diet, which is a little odd because we kind of need it, but we all eat way too much of it. Same thing with sugar. I don't know if we actually need it, but if they said, okay, you can't have refined sugar, it's got to be natural sugar, or whatever the different things that they use, that I think unless they start banning stuff like that, I don't think we're going to make much of a change. And I think if they started banning stuff like that, like trans fats are a little bit different because there are going to be alternatives to it out there. And no one's really sort of balked at this yet. But I think if they did that with sugar, then people would be up in arms. Because again, it's going to be, don't tell me how to live my life and what to eat. Well, you know what? When you're costing people, when you're paying taxes towards a healthcare system that can't keep up, then there does come a point when eventually, well, it's a little bit different down in the States, but for us up in Canada, where we're so much of a burden on the healthcare system that you sort of can see it from their point. If they were to say, you know what, you're costing us money, so you're going to need to either pay more, or you're going to have to make a change. And if you won't, then we'll lobby the government to force a change. This is turning into a political thing, and I don't mean for it to be. I don't know which way it would go, but right now, that's the only thing I can see that's going to make people change. Unless you force them to change, we won't do it ourselves, obviously. We get to a point now when, we're day 100 of this, but usually with something like this isn't a matter of someone sort of half-heartedly going, I should probably eat a little healthier, and yeah, I think I'll start exercising. It's because we've gotten to some point, usually after years and years and years of this, where we can't do it anymore. We have to make a change. And until we get to that point, we probably aren't going to do it. So I don't know what the answer is for it. But the numbers are fairly disturbing. So for those of you out there that are overweight, you are now in the minority among us. For those of you, like me, that are obese, or what was the other one? Severely obese, or in my bracket, morbidly obese, which I'm going to start using that much, much more now. Or the bracket I was in when we first started this 100 days ago, super obese. We are the majority. And that should say something. Something not good. Or bad. Same thing. Anyway, this is turning very dark very quickly, isn't it? So, we're going to sort of stop things here. We are making a change in our part. You've gone through this for 3 months. And, we're 3 weeks away from, having our 4th month down and under our belt. And you've made so many changes, and there's been so many accomplishments that you've reached, just even making the little tiny tweaks here and there that we've been doing, and we're going to continue doing. So don't get discouraged. Eventually, and some of you may have already done this. You may have sort of dropped down into another bracket. And for those of you that haven't, it will happen. It may not happen in a year, it may not happen in 2 years or 5 years, but if we keep doing what we're doing, and if we keep following what we have in plan, or what we have in planned, I can't talk at all. I'm sorry. This is meant to be very inspirational with nice dramatic music and everything else. But now I've just sort of balls it all up. Anyway, for those of you that are still in that same bracket, or if you're in my bracket or the bracket below me, it is going to happen eventually. We're eating healthier now. We've started the exercise. We're getting that into sort of a regular routine. And even if you haven't started losing weight yet, just because of eating habits or because you've just started doing the exercise, whatever the reason is, long term, and I keep saying this and I sound like a broken record and I'm sorry, for those of you that don't know what a record is because you're too young, I sound like a broken MP3 or FLAC file if you prefer, but it will happen. If you go to the end of this year and then you look back, you are going to see a change. It may not be a weight change. You might be able to look back and say, you know what, I've gone to the doctor before, I've gone to the doctor after, I'm still the same weight, but my heart is better, my lung capacity is better, my knees don't hurt as much, there's, back pain is better. There are going to be changes. And it can take a long, long time to get things started. But once you do sort of get started, I think that momentum is going to keep going. And it's not just going to be a matter of saying, well, we're slowly losing 1 pound a week for a full year. I think it is going to pick up because we've gotten to a point where our eating habits are way better than they were 3 months ago. And we're now starting to move and we're starting to be active. And yes, it's only a tiny amount of time per week, but it's much more. Like if you look back and say, okay, here's when we started doing exercise and here's where I am now, add up all the time. And then look back 3 months ago. And say, okay, how many times did I exercise? How far back do I need to go to equal the amount of time that I've done in the past 3 months? I just spit on myself. Sexy time. So when you look at those numbers, say that you've been doing half an hour every 2 days for a month, even just that. So that's an hour a week. It's 4 hours a month for 2 months. You've done 8 hours of exercise. Go back 3 months when we first started and look back and try to figure out how long it's going to take you to accumulate 8 hours of exercise. So there is a change there. You have done it. We're going to keep on doing it. And you've got a support group here that's starting to grow more and more every day. And so you can reach out to anybody here and just whatever you need. That's what we're here for. But anyway, I'm going to end this one because it's going to start traipsing on again and again and again. And stuff I should really be saving for a weekend wrap-up sort of thing, or the start of a new week. But it goes where it goes. But for right now, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. In the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.